Hi. I have some more sad news. Whew, this has been quite a year. Last week, my sweet 92-year-old father passed away. It was somewhat unexpected. He was doing, as he has been doing, living an independent living with some assistance. And he had fallen in August, didn't break anything, but had some bumps and bruises and things that he needed to deal with. And so he was recovering from that and back to his apartment and so forth. And last Tuesday, I got a phone call. They had called my sister, and she called to tell me that he fell and he was complaining of his side and his hip hurting. So they were taking him to, his oxygen was low too. So they took him to 911 to the hospital, and we were awaiting results. So the last time this happened, he didn't break anything, and that was only a couple months ago. This time we weren't sure what to think, but we were all kind of figuring out that we needed to try to get there if we could. Turned out that he did break his left hip and his left pelvis. So that was, a lot more than previously. And he was in a lot of pain. So once they got his pain regulated and so forth, that was good. And he did state to the doctor that he did not want surgery. He wanted nothing to do with it, is what he said. I want nothing to do with surgery. And the doctor explained to him that, what that meant. And he said that that was fine. My dad had, before even going into this facility, had signed a DNR, do not resuscitate, and checked the box for no artificial food, no, extra stuff to keep him going if the time came. So those were his wishes. And I'm so happy he was able to tell the doctor that too. But we had all the paperwork and we knew that talking to him. Anyway, next, we were planning to go there the next morning because that night after so forth, they got him settled, he was asleep and whatever. So he did not want us driving at night. We were planning to go the next morning. So on Wednesday, the 26th, we were planning to leave at about 11 o'clock in the morning, getting things organized, my husband and I. So Jim was here. So he and I were gonna hit the road. I got a call around 8 o'clock in the morning or so, 8:30, saying that he went into kidney failure that night, the night before. So his kidneys had completely shut down. His oxygen was low. Things weren't good. And they told me he was basically dying. So if anyone needs to come or wants to come, this is your chance to do so. So we quickly threw things in a bag in case we needed to spend a night or two, and got on the road. It's about 3.5 hours or so to get there. So Jim and I drove down as fast as we possibly could. My sister was trying to scramble for flights, that kind of thing. It was, not fun. So we got there thinking that we may not even make it in time. And lo and behold, we walk in the room and he greeted us. He said hello. He was very, very weak and it was hard for him to talk, but he did say hello, and he kept asking what time it was. Every time I see him, he'd ask, "What time is it?" That'd be the first question out of his mouth. But he was responding. They were keeping him going a little bit that one day so that he would be able to possibly speak to us and so forth, which was their plan. So we got there. I got to hold the phone up to him so all the grandkids could talk to him and tell him how much they loved him. And he got to say, "I love you" back to them too, which was fantastic. And same with my sister. She got to talk to him a little bit. So we did that. Everyone got to say their goodbyes. It was just so horrible. He didn't even know he was dying. He didn't seem to. He didn't even know he was in the hospital at one point. He was just pretty confused. So it was, it's not like you can say goodbye when he'd be like, "What for? What?" But anyway, it was interesting. So we were all doing our best to, say our "I love yous" and so forth that day. So then that evening, he was all settled and doing well in the hospital. So Jim and I got a hotel room and we spent the night there. And then first thing in the morning, we went back. Hadn't heard anything throughout the night. Things went well. And got to the hospital, and he had definitely lost a lot of energy. His kidneys were completely shut down. His oxygen was low. He had been aspirating some things that he was trying to drink, when he was trying to have some water, and he was getting pneumonia from that, and just everything was just shutting down. And he was definitely in the process, and they were not giving him extra things as, per his request to help keep him going, because we'd all said our goodbyes, so to speak. So Thursday the 27th, when I got there in the morning, I spent the whole day with him in his room. My uncle and aunt, which was my dad's brother and his wife, came to visit too. So I got a good visit with them, and they got to say their goodbyes and so forth without saying goodbye, really. It was different. So it was, he died peacefully that afternoon around 4:30 or so in the afternoon, Eastern time. I was in the room with him. Jim had just gotten back from some things he was running around trying to take care of at the apartment place that my father lived in, the retirement home. He was trying to take care of some business there real quick. He got back and he wasn't in the room 5 minutes, I swear. And Dad had been fading and fading and fading, but it was like, I don't know. It really seems to us that Dad waited until Jim got back and then he passed, just very slowly, very peacefully. And Jim was right there, and I feel like he waited for Jim to get back so I wouldn't be alone. I really do, I swear. So anyway, he was 92 years old. He was just such an amazing man in so many ways. His generation was just a good group. He was born in 1930. And they just saw so much, and they went through so much and so many changes in the world, and he was just his own person. There's no other way to describe my dad. He didn't stand for any stupidness. You know what I mean? He was just he was take it or leave it. This is who I am. I'm going to be nice to you and kind to you, but I'm not going to take any gruff from you kind of a person. Real sweet with, oh my gosh, animals. From the minute he was a child, animals flocked to him, he flocked to them. I mean, he had the strangest kind of wild animals as sort of pets in a way when he was a kid. He had a bird that would find him wherever he was when he was a child. He would play and ride around on his bike, and the bird would just come and like sit on the handlebars when he rode his bike around town. One time the bird found him while he was playing baseball with friends, and the bird flew down and just landed right on him. Just really crazy things like that. He would literally feed squirrels out of his hands. He had a squirrel that came to the house every day. He named him Nutsy, and he would feed him nuts. There were times that Dad would be sitting out front of the house and Nutsy would come by, and Dad would say, hold on a second, let me go get you something. And by golly, the squirrel would just hop up on the bench and sit there and wait for Dad to get the peanuts or whatever he was, serving that day, and bring them, and sat down with the squirrel. The squirrel didn't budge, just waiting for him all patiently, like, okay, you're gonna go get me something, great, And he would sit there and just hand feed the squirrel his the nuts or whatever. I mean, he just had a special relationship with animals completely. He and Gracie absolutely, positively loved one another. She loved her Pop. That's what she called him. She knew exactly where he was. No matter where he was, she could just go down a strange hallway and find him. He was amazing that way. He loved anything mechanical. He was very into cars and motorcycles, especially airplanes. He actually built his own airplane. He built one in our garage in the 70s, and I kind of tried to help him with it as much as I could. I was helping rivet one of the wings. I remember that was a big day of helping with him. But we had an airplane in my garage and in my driveway growing up. It was interesting. At one point, he had several motorcycles. At one point, I believe he had a Triumph and a Harley Davidson, and he'd be driving those off up everywhere. We had a dune buggy. That was a lot of fun. He decided to, let's just have a dune buggy. So we would take it to the lake and have little picnics and stuff at the lake in the weekends and things in the summer. So just everything mechanical. He could fix anything. He could keep anything working. He loved his different lawnmowers that he'd have. Just a really good friend. He had so many friends. He was a very good friend to so many people. I've been spending the day calling a lot of them in the last few days too, and just chatting with people about that. He was a pilot in the Korean War and an airplane mechanic also during the war. Flew people all over the place for that in the Army. Just always involved in airplanes, even remote control airplanes. Loved everything having to do with airplanes. Went to fly-ins and things like that my whole life as a kid. So that was always good. So anything airplane related was something my dad loved. He and my mother were married for 63 years when she passed. So they were married in 1958. So there's a lot of years there, a lot of good family memories, a lot of love. He was pretty darn amazing. He had a very, very good life, filled with friends and lots of family and lots of hobbies and stuff. Yeah. I feel like this last 10 months since my mom passed, I've gotten closer even to my dad than I ever had before. Usually, I mean, it was throughout my growing up and throughout my adult life, even when I would call home, mom would usually answer the phone and I would chat with her, and then I'd say a couple words to dad and my hellos and, just see just general stuff. And then that was it. But the majority of the conversations were usually with my mom. It's just how it worked, right? Well, when my mom passed last December, that of course changed. And I, of course, called my dad every day and talked to him all the time. And toward the end, he'd answer the phone, "Well, I'm still here." Um, so he was a character. And everybody at the place where he was, they just loved him. We've gotten so many sweet remarks from people who've worked with him and so forth, how much they just really enjoyed him. He made them laugh, and they would just have all sorts of fun stories about him and so forth. But I got to know him a whole lot more even because of talking to him every single day since mom died. I mean, I just really got even closer with him. So that was in a strange way, a blessing this last bit. So yeah, in 10 months time, I've lost both of my parents. I'm in some sort of shock over it a little bit. It's surreal. I don't really have any words to process it yet or explain the process or how I'm feeling right now. I'm fine in that I know he was ready. I still am flummoxed over my mom's situation somewhat, but I know my dad was ready. He wasn't able to do much of anything at the end, and he was alone, and he did not want to move closer to me. He did not want to move closer to my sister. He wanted to be where he was. He was used to it. He knew people there. He knew his nurses. He didn't want to be any kind of a bother. So there was that, and he's very strong and kind of stubborn in his situation. So hey, whatever he can control, fine, So we just visited and helped him and called constantly and did everything we could from afar. Anyway, he was just really an all-around really great guy. He'll be missed. This is my new normal, and it's nothing but normal. I mean, it's not normal at all. I don't know yet I'm processing. I'm still processing. In general, we're just going through stuff. We've already sold our family home before they moved. So it's been about not even a year and a half since we sold the family home, moved the parents to the places, and then both of them have passed. So it's just a little bit crazy. They will be buried together at the same time. That's coming up. We're just sort of planning it. It's just going to be a private ceremony for the family. And yeah, I just needed you guys to know that that's what's been happening. It's been very rough. I'm sure it will continue to be rough for quite a while, but it's all going to be okay. Thank you guys so much for understanding. Thank you for all of your care and your concern and your love. And I send it right back to you. Thanks.